So another vision I get of the aliens coming down is they're absolutely taking all weapons away. Bye-bye guns. So that's what I'm saying. If you have a gun and you're a gun person, go shoot your guns. Go out to the gun range. Go shoot your guns. Guns are going to go bye-bye. Bye-bye. They might still have stuff like gun ranges where you'd have to go to a gun range and you'd have to again, be in a well enough density. And that's the only place you could shoot a gun is at a gun range, with supervision, and they're going to be locked up and all this stuff. And you have to be at a certain density to even do that. But other than that, all weapons will be confiscated. There will be no more weapons. We're going into a time of full peace. So that's what I'm saying. It's this is basically what this is doing. What open contact is doing is it is catching us up to where we should have been right now if we didn't have a bunch of fucking men distort and, manipulate this society for hundreds of centuries. That is all we're doing. We are catching us up to where we already are on a parallel dimension, and that parallel dimension, the distortion and the manipulation doesn't exist. So that's why we're getting this technology, because this technology is just what we humans would have invented at this point in time if we were not, distorted, manipulated, and stunted for hundreds of years. We have not been able to even move. We don't even have rights over our own bodies still. That's what I'm saying. They're going to fucking advance the hell out of this shit. We are speeding this shit up. I don't know if you guys have heard about Terence McKenna, but he talks about the timeline speeding up and how things are going to get weird and how we're going to have to talk about it. This is what he means by the timeline speeding up as well. It's not just that all these time loops are repeating, but it's also that we are speeding up our evolution here, because that's half the reason why a lot of us agreed to be in hell. Because we knew that at the end of it, there was going to be something that speedily accelerated our evolution, because a lot of us are already at that point. We are seated with alien hybrid souls that are highly advanced. And so it's pretty excruciating for a lot of us to be down here in this distortion and in this manipulation, because we have this inner knowing of how the society should already be functioning and should already be. And that's why we've struggled to be in this society, because we can see that and we're confused, why it's not. And this is why, because we're in an ascension period. So that goes along with ascension. So ascension is a cycle that occurs on Earth continuously. It's something that happens they told me 26,000 years ascension occurs, where the first 13,000 years we're on this ascension, where we've just come out of a descension, which is what we're in now. We're in the worst parts of so we go on this ascension, and then we descend back down into separation from God. On ascensions, we're connecting to God. On descensions, we disconnect from God. And that is hard to explain. That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing that I've explained so many times, which I will have to explain over and over and over anyway. But basically, it's just part of the cycles of Earth, because Earth is a school of love, but it's also a school of polarity, and it's also a school of disconnection from God. It's because incarnating in a physical body is the only way you can disconnect from your own God source energy, because when we pass, there is no such thing as heaven or hell outside of planets. Heaven and hell only exists on planets. When we're outside of here, we're technically in a heaven state. So heaven, the only thing that exists outside of here when we're dead is heaven. The only way we can experience hell is incarnating. And that's why it's so bad right now, because we've all individually contracted our own versions of hell that we can tolerate. And that's why some people's lives are harder and some people's lives are not. And everybody contracted different neural pathways, and everybody contracted whether they're going to be taken away by the aliens or not. People already contracted that before they came down here. And that's based on soul age. Because, the younger souls down here need guidance on how to be humans, because they haven't been humans for that long. And so that's why they fuck it up when they're in power. You see, because the young souls are in power right now. And men, have been younger souls, and they've been, for years. But that's part of dissension. That's part of separating from God. So it's a natural process that occurs on this planet, but it's been manipulated because we've been told that it's this 3-day situation that happens in the Bible with one man. That is not what ascension is. It's actually a whole planetary situation of everybody goes into hell and then everybody goes into heaven. But everybody's versions of hell and heaven are different based on what your soul can take. So there's a lot of people like me who are these shadow workers who came down, we're light workers, shadow workers. We came down here, we explored all these shadows, all this extreme polarity of negativity and contrast in our contract, because then on the other side, we're going to have a lot of positivity and goodness. So if you've had a more extreme soul contract down here where you just hated your life and you wanted to die, you're going to have a really beautiful life on the other side of this. And even people who didn't contract that, people who had good families and they loved it down here and all this stuff, but they were good people, they're also going to have advanced experiences because they're going to now have advanced technology. So it's like they've always had a good time, but now they're just going to have an even better time. So really it's hard to explain. It's what we call a soul contract node. So a soul contract node. So soul contracts are these things that we sign before we come down here. We sign these soul contracts. We already know what we're getting ourselves into. We come down here with amnesia. We forget that part. We forget that we signed these soul contracts. We forget that we're God. We forget a bunch of shit to separate from God, because the whole point of being down here is to see if you will reconnect to God even if you're disconnected from him, and how far away of disconnection did you disconnect from God, and how close can you get back to him. And that's what an ascended master is, like me and other people who have experienced extreme distortion, but we're still able to find God and come back to that. Because there's a lot of people who can only handle a little bit of distortion and then they can't get back to God. It's like that kind of thing. You'll see one day. It's going to be this whole thing. The aliens are going to explain it. There's going to be classes about it. So, they only give me, they've been giving me a lot more since the Ascended Masters portal. I've been getting a lot more downloads and stuff, but I don't get everything. I don't get the full scope because I'm also not meant to know, because they like to surprise people, and this is going to be good. That's the thing. It sounds like this big scary thing because it's going to be this huge thing of change, but it's all changing us towards a path of extreme evolution that's going to make the society fair, just, and equal for everybody, and safe, finally. And those who aren't safe will be contained and will be forced to actually heal. And that's the other thing with the prison system that we don't do. We just throw people in these prison cells and we don't rewire their neural pathways, and we don't actually help them. We don't resolve their trauma. We don't do any of that shit. We just throw them in there and that's it. And that's not at all what we're going to be doing. So it's all the systems that are corrupt and unjust and all that stuff right now, they're going to be completely rendered useless. And then the society is actually going to start to become efficient and the way that it's meant to be. We're not meant to exist like this as humans. But then we do it. We all agree to exist like this as humans because we want to experience the contrast and the polarity of God. And so that's a whole thing too, which we'll get into someday. I'm sorry, I can't fit it all in this video because it's a lot to explain, but that's as best as I can explain it without going into even more detail. So it's not going to be like this. It's not going to be what people think it's going to be. It's going to be so much better. It's going to blow our minds. It's going to be the craziest shit. We're going to have all this time to actually do stuff, and that's where it's going to be hard, is people are going to be bored, and it's well, then you have to invent things, you have to create things, you have to figure out how not to be bored, and all that stuff.